Let's go ahead and add a new sheet to our workbook. So go down to where you can see sheet 1, click the plus button, and now sheet 2 appears. On sheet 2, we're going to do code for a few different command buttons, and instead of using number values, we're going to use strings and colors. So let's insert our first button. And you can see on our previous sheet that button1 underscore click is a macro that's already there. So we're creating a new macro. So this one's named sheet2 underscore button1 underscore click. This is an easy way to see that this is the very first button we inserted on sheet 2, and this macro is for when the button is clicked. So go ahead and select new, and you will see up above the code for the previous button on sheet 1, which was in the last video. So we're going to focus on sheet number 2, button number 1. Let's make a comment and say this button will display a specific string. Now, a string stands for a list of characters, a group of words, a sentence, etc. So a string is used when writing letters. So we're going to set our range, and we're going to say A1 within quotes. So in A1, instead of having a value that's a number, we want a string. So we're going to do quotation mark and then what we want to say. So welcome to sheet 2. Going back into our Excel workbook on sheet 2, I'm just going to set everything to be a bigger font so that we'll be able to read it. So let's say 28. Click the button, and in A1 it says welcome to sheet 2 when the button is selected. Let's go ahead and name this button intro, so that we know that this button stands for an introduction to sheet 2, and that's where we're going to see hello. Now let's insert our second button. So back under the Developer tab, we're going to draw another button. Because there is not another sheet that the second button is on, button 2 underscore click is a name that has not been assigned a macro yet. But just for the sake of organization, I'm going to say sheet 2 underscore button 2 so that I know button 2 belongs to sheet 2. And I'm going to go ahead and assign it to a new macro. In the module, we're going to create another comment. So this button will assign a color to a cell or group of cells. So again, we're going to use range, and let's make the range A1 through A5. Now, instead of a value, we want the cell to be colored. So that's going to be dot interior. So we're saying the inside of the cell dot color. And we're going to use RGB values to assign that color. RGB stands for red, green, and blue values. So I'm going to say 0 for red, 255 is the max, and I'm going to set that to green, and 0 for blue. So this color is going to be purely green. When I go back to my workbook, I'm going to rename the button really quickly. Color R, which will be for color the range. So when I select the button, it's going to color A1, A2, A3, A4, and A5 because I set it to color A1 through A5. Now let's say you wanted the button to color something but not a specific range, maybe a specific selection. So we're going to insert a new button, and we'll name this sheet 2 underscore button 3 underscore click and assign it a new macro. So now this button will color a previous selection. So what this is saying is that the user can click a cell, then click the button, and that cell that was highlighted or clicked will change color. So this is going to be selection dot interior dot color, and let's assign this color to red. So that's going to be 255, 0, and 0. So going back, we're going to rename and increase the size of the font on button 3. And now let's pick a selection. So I'm going to highlight these couple cells and then click color red. And you can see where I was highlighted is now red. If I click up here, click color red, now that one is red. You can see how tedious it is to change the font on the button every single time. So instead of adding a new button, just copy an old button and paste it in, and then move the button around to the position you like. Instead of this being red, this is going to stand for blue. Now currently it's just a button sitting here that has not been assigned a macro. So we're going to assign it a new macro, and this is button 4. So we're going to say sheet 2 button 4 click. Assign a new macro, and this time the button will color a previous selection, and we're going to make this blue, whereas this one up above was red. So red value 0, green value 0, blue value 255. Go back into your workbook, and now when you make a selection and click color blue, and the selection is colored blue.